Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. We're aiming for an efficient episode today as I have some family departing, so that's going to condense my schedule. On X, we got a pretty cool inside Tesla story from Tesla Thomas. Now, just be aware this is not some random X account. He did actually work at Tesla as a hiring manager, I believe, for about 10 years. He once heard an internal story at Tesla about a mechanic who worked on the Roadster who was one of the first 100 employees at Tesla. He went straight to Elon, asked him for a raise of $1 per hour, and then Elon asked him if he got stock when he joined, and the guy didn't know. So Elon's assistant showed him how to log into E-Trade, and there was about $1.5 million in Tesla stock in his account. I can't validate this story, but for what it's worth from what I've seen, I would absolutely trust Tesla Thomas. I figured that was fitting given everything going on with Tesla stock, and a good reminder of how Tesla the company and Tesla the stock are literally changing people's lives. And a pretty significant reason as to why Tesla does not need unions. Elon did say the last two guys who ran the UAW went to prison for stealing money from the union members they're supposed to represent. If my choice is Tesla stock or UAW representation, the decision really is not even close. Optimus Y on X shared that the Tesla configurator is now live for the Philippines. The auto industry in the Philippines grew about 19% in 2023 year over year and ended the year with just over 441,000 sales. About 74% of those were commercial vehicles and roughly 25% were passenger cars. The top two brands in the region, Toyota was number one with a 45% market share and Mitsubishi was number two with an 18% market share. And a fun fact when it comes to the Cybertruck, roughly 20% of the total automobile market in the Philippines is pickup trucks. In the Philippines, EVs are exempt from excise tax and there's a 30% discount on motor vehicle user charges for EVs. There's also zero tariffs on imported EVs and their parts until 2028. And finally, the Philippine government does provide cash grants and subsidies to reduce the cost of buying EVs. So if over time Tesla can grab about 10% of this market, that would be an additional 40,000 units per year. John Carmack, who's a well-known programmer and video game developer, said, "I'm more skeptical than a lot of people in the tech space about the near-term utility of humanoid robots. Long-term, driven by AGI, sure, they're going to be an enormous economic engine, but business plans that have them making a dent in the next 5 years seem unlikely. Tesla can play a long game and maybe win, but I don't like the odds for startups." To which Elon said, "Optimus is already doing some tasks in the factory and the scope of its ability is increasing rapidly. The toughest part by far is improving the design of Optimus for ease of manufacturing and tooling up a complex supply chain so it can be made in significant numbers." A fun fact about John, he actually said that in the past he volunteered to help improve the user interface performance on older Tesla Model S cars. So he may have actually done some programming for Tesla in the past. John has also said, quote, "Elon is definitely an engineer. He's deeply involved with technical decisions at SpaceX and Tesla. He doesn't write code or do CAD today, but he's perfectly capable of doing so." I also think what Elon said is a crucial question to ask anytime you see any humanoid videos from any company. That question being, can this company manufacture these parts at scale and build out a robust supply chain? So if the toughest part really is the prototype production distinction, then Tesla's lead in this realm is even more significant. I'm not sure there's a company anywhere on the planet that I would trust more to have efficient manufacturing and a robust supply chain. Tesla's secret sauce has always been the machine that builds the machine. The Cybertruck won an award over in Germany from the Auto Build and Build. The Cybertruck has won the coolest car title at the Golden Steering Wheel 2024 Awards. This prestigious automotive award ceremony is now in its 48th year. The awards recognize excellence and innovation in the auto industry across 14 different categories. But I think the most impressive thing about this award is that the Cybertruck isn't even available for sale in Europe. The award ceremony was attended by some top auto execs, including the CEOs from VW, Mercedes, and BMW. Speaking of the Cybertruck, it's now available for lease. So if you put $70 $7,500 down for 3 years, you'd be looking at $999 per month for the all-wheel drive. The same terms for the Cyberbeast would be $1,148 per month, and both options do have a 10,000 mile cap. Reading the terms, it does say you forego the option to buy your car at the end of the lease, and you must return it to Tesla after the lease term. I do think you can make the argument with this move by Tesla that would be another sign that maybe Cybertruck demand at this new price point isn't as robust as we were expecting it to be. If they did have a large backlog of orders, they likely wouldn't have opened up leasing right now. Of course, we'll see what Cybertruck sales look like for Q4, but as far as we know right now, Cybertruck production is still hovering just north of about 1,000 per week. Just FYI, that $7,500 down payment is not required. You can actually change it and take it all the way down to zero. This video was going around of some footage of the new Model Y, Project Juniper, a little covered up, but you can see in some of these angles that there's a front bumper camera. However, I just wanted to remind everybody that when we saw these shots of the new Model 3, it also had a front bumper camera, but when it came to production, as we now know, it does not have that front bumper camera. But of course, we know that the Cybertruck does have the front bumper camera, and personally, I would love to see it on the new Model Y. I'm really hoping they do it, but at this point it feels like a coin flip whether it's going to have it or not. Ashley and I were at the pool the other day and we were talking to a woman we just met, probably in her 40s, super fit though, so naturally I asked her what her nutrition was like. No joke, the first thing she said was that her and her husband love the meal delivery service Factor, and she asked if we had heard of it. Of course, I started laughing and then went on to tell her that I was a YouTuber and that Factor had actually sponsored some videos on the channel, including this one. And Stacy, if you see this, shout out to you. Ashley and I had a great time getting to know you. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, dietitian approved meals right to your door. The meals are ready to eat in just 2 minutes, eliminating hours of shopping, cooking, and meal prepping, which admittedly I don't enjoy. There are over 35 different options each week, including ones like keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, and more. Plus, they have gourmet options every week for my fellow filet mignon lovers. Factor also has a lot of snack options if you don't want a full meal. And if Ashley and I are on the go or we get busier than usual, Factor is a great option as it is surprisingly affordable, much less expensive than takeout from delivery apps. You can pause or reschedule deliveries anytime, making it super flexible. So if you're hungry all of a sudden, you can head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50Electrified to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50Electrified and factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. The Chinese Auto Industry Association just hosted the 2024 Automotive Software Conference. They just unveiled this new certification that they're calling the Automotive Privacy Protection Badge. Tesla actually made the cut for this certification, and they're one of the first to be certified, and so far they're the only foreign brand to do so. As you may imagine, the badge signifies compliance with some stringent data security and privacy regulations in the auto industry in China. This, of course, is part of broader efforts by the Chinese government to address some growing concerns over data security, especially those for smart connected vehicles. In short, the badge indicates a vehicle or an auto company adheres to some rigorous standards, just making sure that the protection of personal and important data is in alignment with China's legal requirements. And look, I definitely don't want to jump to any conclusions here, but at the very least, this would be an encouraging sign for the trust between China and Tesla, which could certainly have some positive implications for Tesla's eventual FSD rollout in the region. Of course, the multi-billion-dollar question is, will Tesla be able to send the training data from the Chinese region back to the supercomputers here in America, or will Tesla have to set up another supercomputer in China for that data alone? The last thing we heard about this was when Elon visited China, he did ask for permission to transfer that data overseas. But as far as I can tell, we never actually heard how how China responded. And just bear in mind the distinction: since 2021, Tesla has been storing all of its data gathered by the Chinese fleet in Shanghai to comply with regulations, but storing all of that data, which a lot of which is actually about the personal owners of those vehicles, is very different from how Tesla is going to handle any training data and video footage when it comes to training the FSD neural nets using that data set. But so far, every time China has set key security and privacy requirements in China, Tesla has passed with flying colors. We got the breakdown for Tesla China in October. The domestic number was 40,485 and the exports came in at 27,795. Which is actually almost a flippening from October of last year, where the domestic number was 28,600 and the exports were 43,500. But looking at the numbers that really matter, which are the year-to-date figures for the domestic number, January through October, currently Tesla China is up 7.6% year over year. These numbers in italics to the right are just the readings as of the prior month. So for example, looking at the wholesale number, that would have been January through September, where it was negative 3.4% year over year. That should give everyone a bit more context as I update these numbers. Thus, going from September to October, for the domestic figure, Tesla has seen an increase. Whereas for exports year over year, Giga Shanghai is down 21.2%, and we still don't have the official production figure through October. This feature has been out for a little bit for newer Tesla models, but now when your Tesla vehicle goes to sleep, before it does, it sends the most recent data to Tesla. That way, when you open the app, you can see the latest data without waking up the car. And now Tesla takes that one step further with these offline commands, which just means if you send a command through the app, it'll go over Bluetooth instead of internet, if of course you're within range. So what that means is the commands will be faster and more reliable, and when you press the button to open the frunk, for example, it'll do that instantly instead of having to wake up the car first. Same with other features like HVAC. It's minor, but don't sleep on constant quality of life improvements. We have Toyota now sounding the alarm today that the California-led electric vehicle mandates that are set to start next year are impossible to meet. They're saying if they're not changed, it's going to lead to less customer choice in several states. The new regulations are calling for 35% of 2026 model year vehicles to be zero-emission vehicles, but under these CARB rules, it can be a full EV, a fuel cell, and to an extent, plug-in hybrid EVs as well. The COO of Toyota North America said, "I have not seen a forecast by anyone, government or private, anywhere that has told us that the number is achievable. At this point, it looks impossible." CARB has said that so far, 12 states and Washington, D.C. have adopted the new rules. But JD Power said that no states are in accordance with the EV mandate as of this year, which we've known because California is the bellwether and they're still at roughly 27% of their sales being electrified. Obviously, Toyota is going to publicly say it's a problem for the consumers as if they're trying to protect them, and maybe that's true to some degree, but the real problem here for Toyota is that they're set to face much higher emission fines. And I'm guessing that many of these companies that are paying these fines are sick of funding Tesla. And who could forget when the Toyota CEO said that their company would rather buy credits than waste money on EVs? Ultimately, it really sounds like Toyota is just trying to buy time to avoid those fines, because we have to remember they are spending about $14 billion for a battery manufacturing site in North Carolina that's under construction. But the problem, full capacity for this site isn't expected until 2028. Rivian has announced a new partnership with LG Energy to supply battery packs for the upcoming R2. The R2 battery packs will use LG's 4695 cylindrical cells, and the 5-year supply agreement between Rivian and LG includes 67 gigawatt hours of these 4695 cells, enough for between 650 to 700,000 vehicles. If we go to the middle and assume 675,000 and do the math, that would be roughly 99 kilowatt hours per pack. Initially, LG will make the cells in South Korea to meet early demand, but will shift production to its new Arizona plant within the R2's first production year. But as we've been saying all week, based on how the IRA may change in the months ahead, I think all of this is subject to change more so than normal. On that front, the word on the streets is that right now, virtually every OEM that's selling in the US market is war rooming right now. AKA, they're going to the drawing board to come up with some contingency plans. citizens. The founder of Atlas Public Policy said lawmakers could change the EPA standards through a rulemaking process, which would take a few years. They could also deny California the waiver that would allow the state to enforce its phase out of new gas-only cars and light trucks by 2035. He said, "I expect the administration will greatly temper the role of the government in regulating tailpipe emissions, slowing down the pace of regulations and providing the industry with more time to comply." The VP of research at the firm said, "We anticipate a repeal of the EPA waiver for California, but given the substantial investments already made, it would create a different set of challenges." All last year, we were talking about the need to avoid this back and forth in policy uncertainty, which is unfortunately exactly what we're facing right now. And not to shift everything back to Tesla, but the truth is, as the most agile manufacturer by far, Tesla will be fine. It's really these legacy companies that are still trying to figure out how to do what Tesla does that are going to have the hardest time. And a fun fact about EV sales, from January to September of this year, 87% of new EV sales were eligible for the tax credit, according to JD Power. For my friends in Europe and the Middle East, Tesla said 1 year of free supercharging is now available. All you have to do is order and take delivery of your Model Y before December 31st. Hopefully none of you out there followed in Fred Lambert's footsteps when it comes to Tesla stock, and everybody is now celebrating what it's done over the past few weeks. After today, Tesla has moved up to the 9th largest company by market cap, ending the week with a $1.02 trillion market cap. It's pretty crazy to think that just over 5 months ago, Tesla stock at the end of April was at $139 per share. So during that time, Tesla stock has increased 131.5%. And what do you know? All of a sudden, year to date, Tesla stock is up 28.37%. Which is exactly why we've said many times on the channel, sometimes with Tesla stock, it feels like it does nothing for years, and then basically everything happens at once. Which is why trading Tesla stock is really not for the faint of heart. But Tesla stock closed the day at $321.22, up 8.19%, while the NASDAQ was effectively flat, up 0.09%. The volume for Tesla stock today was up 129% relative to the average. So now that many people are feeling a bit wealthier, don't forget, go check out Factor, linked below. Take advantage of those discounts and feed yourself and your family well. And as always, to everybody out there that does interact with and check out some of these sponsors, I cannot thank you enough. It is a huge help to the channel. Hope you guys have a wonderful and a safe weekend. Please like the video. If you did, you can find me on X, linked below. And a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.